When you're hunting for a new electric guitar, the temptation to grab the cheapest starter model you can find online is real. I've seen a lot of people bite the bullet on those budget guitars, only to end up with a thin-sounding neck, frets that feel like sandpaper, and a finish that chips after the first gig. The regret that follows is pretty universal, especially when you've spent a decent chunk of cash and still feel like you bought a compromise. So the question isn't just, is this PRS SE Hollowbody 2 Piezo worth the price, but more like, will it feel like a smarter buy than that cheap alternative I could order for half the price? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What makes the Hollowbody category a little different from a solid body workhorse is the blend of resonance and feedback control. A true Hollowbody can sound gorgeous when you coax it into jazzish warm tones, but the same openness can become a nuisance on high-gain rock settings if the body starts screaming. The PRS SE Hollowbody II tries to walk that tightrope by pairing a maple top and back with mahogany side wings, essentially a semi-hollow design that promises a bit of that airy character without the uncontrollable howl. That's a key point for anyone who wants versatility. If you're a blues rock player who occasionally dabbles in clean, chord melody work, this could be a viable middle ground. Let's start with who will actually benefit from this instrument. If you're a gigging musician who frequently shifts between clean, acoustic-style patches and moderate overdrive, the dual volume controls, one for the magnetic pickups and one for the built-in piezo, give you on-the-fly blend options that most standard guitars don't offer. Imagine transitioning from a clean, acoustic-like arpeggio in a folk rock song to a crunchy, mid-range solo without having to swap guitars or engage a separate pedal. That kind of convenience is a real time saver on stage, and it's where the SE Hollowbody II starts to earn its keep. On the flip side, if your playing style leans heavily into high-gain metal or you spend most of your setlist drenched in distortion, you might find the semi-hollow construction a step back. The 5815 LTS pickups are praised in the specs for delivering clarity and balance, and in practice they do sound big and musical when you sit them clean or with a mild overdrive. However, when you crank the gain past a certain threshold, the natural resonance of the hollow chambers can start to feed back, especially on stage monitors that are positioned close to the instrument. For pure high-gain users, a solid body with a tighter cavity might be a safer bet. One of the biggest practical strengths of the SE Hollowbody II is the built-in piezo system. It's not just a gimmick. It actually captures the vibration from the acoustic-style saddle and feeds it directly to the output jack. In a live setting, I've heard players route the piezo signal to a separate channel on the mixing board, allowing the acoustic tones to sit above the electric body without fighting for space. For a bedroom player who wants to record directly into an audio interface, the piezo offers a clean, bright signal that can be processed just like a standalone acoustic guitar, which saves you from buying an extra instrument just to get that tonal variety. The inclusion of a hardshell case is another point that quietly adds value. Many entry-level guitars ship with a flimsy gig bag, leaving the buyer to purchase a case later if they intend to tour. The PRS case is sturdy enough to protect the delicate carved top and the maple finish, which is another reason why the overall package can feel like a smarter investment. If you're the type who packs up and travels frequently, that case alone can offset a perceived extra cost when compared to a cheap guitar that arrives without any proper protection. Now, let's talk about the trade-offs you won't see on the first glance. The maple top gives the guitar a bright attack, but pairing it with mahogany sides introduces a subtle mid-range warmth that can be a bit elusive to dial in if you're not used to balancing two wood tones. Some players report that getting the right neck pickup height requires a few experimentations to avoid the piezo overly brightening the signal when you pull up the magnetic volume. It's not a massive issue, but it does mean you'll spend a few minutes after unpacking figuring out the sweet spot, especially if you switch back and forth between the two volume knobs. Another practical weakness is the weight. The combination of a full maple top and back with a solid mahogany block adds heft that may feel heavier than a standard solid-body Strat-style guitar you're accustomed to. For a gigging musician who has to stand for hours, that extra pound can become noticeable. However, the weight isn't so excessive that it hampers playability. It simply reminds you that this is a more substantial instrument designed for resonance, not a lightweight beginner's model. If you're a beginner who's still figuring out the nuances of tone shaping, the dual control layout might initially